The assembly line was invented in 1913 and it was a huge step up for Ford Motor Company in the engineering world. There's an uncountable amount of triumphs that came from Ford's invention, ranging from the first mass production of the Model T to workers being paid more than a living wage. But with this great triumph came tragedies. Because of the assembly line, people were put to hard work, doing work for hours on end in conditions that would be frowned upon today. Some employees worked so hard for hours every day they passed out from exhaustion or were injured on the job. Ford's moving assembly line was a masterpiece that moved the world forward into the future, solving problems and causing them as it went. Welcome to the world of Ford's assembly line. An assembly line is an arrangement of machines, equipment, and workers in which work passes from one operator to another operator in a direct line until the product is assembled. While Ford did not invent the moving assembly line, the creation of the stationary assembly line can be traced back 12 years before. The assembly line was invented in 1901 by Ransom Olds. Before the Olds assembly line was invented, skilled craftsmen made everything from the very start to the end. As they would work, they would teach their apprentices how to build the product. After the apprentice learned how to build the product properly, they would join in the building process. At the end of the century, Ransom Olds had the great idea to have people doing work on different parts of the product and each focusing on just one part. It started slow at first, but as technology advanced, so did the assembly line. Some people were replaced by machines that could work faster and more accurately, while people fed the machines the materials to work. The next step in evolution of the assembly line was Ford's moving assembly line. The moving assembly line was invented in 1913 by Ford Motors in an attempt to increase the effectivity of the assembly line. The invention of the moving assembly line decreased the time needed to make a Model T from 12 hours to about 90 minutes from the original line they used. With the moving assembly line, the Model Ts moved to the workers until they were completed, allowing many to be produced at the same time. A new Model T rolled off the new moving assembly line every 24 seconds. At the Ford Motor Company and at other facilities across the country, workers were being paid about $2.50 for every 9-hour workday before 1913, but that changed all around the same time as the moving assembly line because Ford Motor Company led the way into the future, raising their pay. From the day the moving assembly line was created, it pushed forward the economic age, increasing the production of the Model T by eightfold. The new process revolutionized the product and dropped the assembly line's time for a single vehicle from 12 hours to about 90 minutes. The decrease in the amount of time that took place to make the Model T seemed to be directly correlated with its price as well. The cost of the first Model T was set to $850, which would be approximately $21,000 today. The cost of Model T would eventually drop to $260. There may have been more triumphs and tragedies, but on the wings of triumph came a price. The company was increasing its wage rate to $5 for every 8-hour workday, more than double the existing rate for the then standard 9-hour day. But what seemed like a dream at a glance never mentioned the strings that were attached. You may be wondering, what can go wrong with a more affordable car and products being more accessible? The conditions of the workers who made the cars are the tragedy. A worker had to meet company standards for a clean living, including sobriety, no gambling, being thrifty, and a happy home environment. Ford actually formed a sociological department whose staff members visited homes to assess the workers' worthiness for the $5 a day. That policy would have provoked torch-bearing mobs and picket lines today. Every worker that worked at Ford Motors was tested to see if they were good enough for the pay. The workers didn't just make cars on the Ford assembly line either. They also were forced to make weapons. By the end of the First World War, Ford built over 86,000 aircraft plus 57,000 airplane engines, thousands of engines for superchargers and generators, and more than 4,000 military gliders. The Ford assembly line and its workers made a major impact on the creation of modern warfare. They pushed us to start a new technological age and into modern warfare. Ford's assembly line had huge effects on the wages and manufacturing businesses of the day. The company was able to increase its wage to $5 for every 8-hour workday, which was more than double the existing rate for the standard then 9-hour workday. Ford's moving assembly line generated huge profits for Ford Motors. They were not only able to pay their workers much more than any other company, but they were also able to drop the price in the Model T, making it more reasonable for the middle class man to own a car. Ford was able to drop the prices of the Model T from $850 to less than $300 because Ford Motors produced a car every 24 seconds. As time went on, the middle class grew due to the higher wages being given out. This caused other car companies to have to raise their prices to pay workers more until they could match what Ford had accomplished. This made Ford Motor Company the main car company for many years to come. The effects of the moving assembly line became greater and greater as the years passed, with the replacement of specialized workers becoming more replaceable as parts of a car. Unskilled labor became a huge part of the car industry and spread with the moving assembly line to other places. Along with the effects on who could get a job for the assembly line, it eased the work for mechanics. As all parts were now mass produced, mechanics could always find a part to replace a broken piece. This pushed out handmade products to be replaced with products that were easier and cheaper to mass produce. As time continued, mass production on the moving assembly line became more common and were used by more and more car manufacturers. With the switch from specialized builders to unskilled on the assembly line, out moved quality of products and in moved quantity. Ford's moving assembly line changed the world by making cars more accessible for everyone and allowed unskilled workers to move into a larger part of the industry. The United States was in need of a way to support its workers after the Gilded Age, and the moving assembly line, along with a $5 workday, helped pull the United States out of that. Ford's moving assembly line became unstoppable as it produced more and more middle class families every year. While Ford may have pushed his workers hard during their workday and controlled their lives out of work, Ford's assembly line's reputation pushes over all the problems it's caused, and it is used everywhere today. Ford changed the world with this idea and led a huge advancement in technology. Without Ford's great idea, who knows where we will have been now?